Well, as you can see on my presentation slide, I'm going to talk about the challenges in the transportation in Brazil. So Brazil, as you know, is the 5th largest country in the planet, and its challenges are on the same scale. And when I think about CO2 emissions in Brazil, I think about the Amazon deforestation, the Amazon depletion. It used to be the major cause of CO2 emissions in our country, but as our government has been controlling the deforestation, other sectors are emerging to be the top CO2 emitters. Let's take a look at the CO2 emissions by sector in Brazil. Well, as you can see, the land use, which represents the deforestation, used to represent 71% of our CO2 emissions in 2003, and it has declined dramatically to 2014. And on the other hand, you can see the energy sector growing steadily from 11%, right on the orange bar here, to 30%, surpassing crop production and livestock. So the energy sector has growing rapidly and could be the major cause of CO2 emissions in Brazil. So let's break down the energy sector to understand what are the major reasons of that. Well, as you can see in this slide here, when we break down the energy sector, we can find the transportation subsector, which represents 46% of our emissions within the energy sector. And heavy trucks represents around 40% of that in this chair here, around 40%. And all the rest is about, light duty vehicles, buses, and so on. So when I saw this graph, I was completely astonished, and then I tried to find out the historical data of this growth, how this subsector has been growing. Then I really got very impressed. As you can see on the dark line, Brazil in the last 40 years, the transportation sector has grown 450%. That's a huge growth. And it's in 40 years, around 100% each decade. So it has been impacting widely the energy subsector. And to understand the reasons for that, why, we need to take a look at the next slide. In this slide here, we're going to analyze two major problems. One is the infrastructure, and the other is the policy. These two problems here, they cause a vicious cycle. It's a kind of a trap here that we are. So Brazil has a completely imbalanced transportation matrix, with railroad representing 61% of all our transportation. And out of 1.7 million kilometers, we just have 12% paved. So it's the major reason of the growth of accidents, emissions, and logistic costs. Because of that, in Brazil, the roads kill 55,000 people per year. If we compare with the United States that has 3 times more cars, they have 40% fewer accidents. So, and if you take a look at the rail grid that we have, well, that's in really bad shape. The rail grid in Brazil has more than 5 different gauges. What I mean is like how wide the track is. So one track is one size, the other track is smaller, so it's kind of impossible to integrate the railroad, and it creates a huge cost because you got to unload the rail car and then reload it again. So imagine the cost of that. So unfortunately, the railroad is not very well developed in our country, and if we compare that with China and Russia, and in terms of railroad, Russia, I think, is the largest. They have like 81% of all the all the transportation rail in that country, and 88% only of road transportation. And if we compare how the roads are paved in Russia, in 1.3 million kilometers, we have 92% of roads paved. So comparing with Brazil, you can see the difference here. So our country has been investing in the highest polluting means of transport, when the largest country in the planet, the 5th largest, are investing in railroad. You know, so that's one of the causes that we have, and the emissions are growing down in Brazil. So China, they have around 22% of road transportation, and with 1.8 million kilometers, and 84% of that is paved. So that's another example. So besides that, besides having this type of problem, we have also the policy problem. The policy problem that's really awkward, you know, that really makes the situation worse, where our government, with the intention to push the economy forward, has been investing in doing like tax breaks for the automotive industry and expanding credits and subsidizing gasoline. And that's really make the problem really hard. So that's why it's a vicious cycle that we are. So it is a trap that we are in at this moment. So if we think about all the effort to decrease the deforestation, at the same time you have a policy that push CO2 emissions, and with a very poorly planned transportation mode with all the effort on road transportation. So that's, you know, a Precision newspaper published an article last year, 2014, and they said that the investment of our government by doing tax breaks and also subsidizing gasoline, it's around 20 billion reais, that will be $5 billion, and investment in public transportation is 50% of that. So it's completely crazy. So then we have a huge impact in public transportation because of that, you know, the lack of mobility, the lack of investment, the lack of safety. So there are studies that show that even though the population is growing in Brazil rapidly, the use of the public transportation mode is decreasing. So that's really weird. What are the solutions that we can find in this bad situation? First of all, Brazil has one of the largest flex fuel fleet in the planet. We have around 30 million cars. And this flex fuel fleet has been growing rapidly from 2005 to 2014. It represents 54% of our total fleet. Nowadays, we have some information that's around 70, and we believe it will hit 90% soon, because most of the cars manufactured in Brazil, as you can see in this green bar here at the end of the presentation, at the end of the graph, it shows that 90% of all the cars produced in Brazil are flex fuel. But ethanol is still struggling with some issues, such as gasoline subsidies that really make ethanol a little bit less competitive, even though it's a very good fuel. So, and as you know, our ethanol industry is a steady industry. In the last year, we produced 28 billion liters of ethanol, and that is 1/3 of what the world consumes. So, how to take advantage of that? How to explore this opportunity here with such a lack of efficiency in our transportation modes? So, well, we have developed two sustainable programs. One is the Sustainable Fleet Program, and the other one is a carbon credit program, but that's what I'm going to tackle first. Well, the Sustainable Fleet, the carbon credit program is a unique program in the planet where we can switch from gasoline to ethanol and obtain carbon credits. So this program is certified by VCS, the Verified Carbon Standards, which is the voluntary green gas reduction program. So basically, the idea behind that is to analyze the historical data of our clients, how much fuel they are using, what is the mix, ethanol and gasoline, and then project the emissions to the future as business as usual. So then by analyzing that, for example, if the client is using 50% ethanol and 50% gasoline, we can switch the gasoline side to ethanol and give to the client carbon credits. So this methodology is at the VCS website under the Scope 7 transport. So we can you can get more details of that. So we have provided 15,000 tons of credits for our client, and nowadays are 30 clients that are using this program. How are we capable to do that? Because we, Ecofrotas, we control the means of payment through cutting-edge fuel and maintenance card system. And this card here that I'm handing on my hand here is capable to capture the data at the point of sale and send that to our database where we can cross-check the information and provide to the client benchmarks. And through that, we are capable to show to the client the opportunity to reduce costs. The company manages nowadays 860,000 vehicles and has around almost 50% of all gas stations are capable to use our system. So, and 14,000 corporate fleets, 1.3 million drivers. So we have also a wider program that's called Sustainable Fleet Program, where we can analyze the fleet through nine pillars. And from this point here, we can have a holistic view of the fleet and understand what pillar the client is doing a good job, what pillar the client is doing a bad job. So closer to the center, the point close to the center, it means that the client is doing a poor job in controlling conscious driving process. And also, we have different types of pillars here. So basically, the idea is it's a continuous improvement process. We cannot never stop that. We just assess the client situation through these pillars. We get the benchmarks, the best practices, and then we criticize the situation of the client, how the client is doing the fleet management job in a broader way. So in this case, our client got a 6.6 sustainable level out of 10. So it's a real case. These are the most important slide, the assets we have, the clients that have been pushing us to develop and innovate our systems and to help us to make ideas into reality. So some of them are from different segments, and the fleet range goes from 1,000 to almost 20,000 vehicles. So we are very proud to have them as partners and pushing us to develop systems and solutions.
Sergio, would you be able to just wrap up now?
Yeah, I'm gonna finish now. So that brings us where we are on the road today. Sustainable transportation is like this long road that never ends. So it's up to us, private sector, government, NGOs, and general public to pave this road and speed up the change. The light we can see are the trends we can perceive. So we must analyze those trends and adapt to each country possibility and opportunity. Fortunately, it will lead us to zero carbon emissions in the transportation sector. Thank you very much.